We have general standards that CPAs are required to follow, and these four different general standards are all kind of interrelated. The first one of professional competence just means that we're not going to take on any services that we're not qualified to undertake. For instance, we might have a potential client that comes up to us and asks us to do an audit for them, and maybe they're in an industry that we don't have experience with, and we feel like we need some special technical know-how that we don't have to be able to successfully complete this audit. Well, in that case, we probably should decline the audit because we're not competent enough. We don't have the skills necessary to be able to undertake that audit. So we want to make sure we have the professional competence to get the job done for any engagement that we undertake. And kind of going hand in hand with that is the idea of due professional care. So when we are undertaking an audit engagement, we want to make sure that we dot all of our I's, cross all of our T's, take all the necessary steps, right, to assure that we can actually be able to make a good opinion on the company's financial statements. And part of this is having the proper people in place on the audit team to make sure that all the duties, all the functions that need to be completed during the audit can be done well with people that actually have the knowledge to be able to complete these tasks. So planning and supervision and due professional care kind of go hand in hand. We want to make sure we have people on the job with the adequate know-how to undertake the audit. And of course, being that we're auditing a third party's financial statements, we want to make sure we have all the sufficient relevant data. We're making an opinion on the financial statements, and we want to have the information necessary to be able to make a good opinion on those financial statements. All right, so we expect that a CPA in practice is going to be following all four of these general standards, right, when they're engaged on an audit. Now, we have some other standards and rules that we want to talk about, and in the course of our discussion in Chapter 2, we're not going to be able to discuss every potential ethical dilemma that might arise for a CPA, but that's why we have the standards in place, so we can go there and kind of do research and look at what the interpretations of the principles are. We are going to kind of look at a few really key ones right here. So we have these five different areas, different rules that we want to look at in a little bit more detail. The first one is the accounting principles rule, and basically this is just stating that CPAs are experts in accounting principles. They have to follow these principles while performing their job duties, and basically this principle is stating we don't want to go outside of GAAP unless there's really an overarching reason to do so. So typically, audits in the U.S. are going to follow generally accepted accounting principles. And the reason why we use those is because FASB's put a lot of work in creating those principles. Our accounting standards are designed to produce financial statements that give us good, usable information. So there's a strong presumption that these principles should be followed. So a CPA in practice should follow these standards, and they shouldn't go outside of GAAP unless there's a really unusual circumstance where the CPA thinks the GAAP can't handle the circumstance. So that should be really unusual. There might be some very specific situations, though, where GAAP doesn't allow us to accurately report what's going on with the company's financial situation. In that rare occurrence, a CPA could deviate from using GAAP, but this whole accounting principle rule is basically saying we should stick to GAAP unless there's really some strong reason to not use it. Another big area of potential ethical problems for CPAs is the way in which they get compensated by their clients. So there's two special forms of compensation that are prohibited: contingent fees and commissions and referral fees. Basically, a contingent fee just means the CPA would get kind of a bonus if certain thresholds are made or met. So an example of this would be like the audit client would say, all right, we're going to pay you $100,000 to perform this audit, And if our stock price goes up 20% in the year after the audit report's filed, you're going to get an extra $50,000 bonus. Well, something like that could obviously lead to issues with objectivity on the CPA's part. We don't want the performance of the firm to be tied in with the CPA's work. So we're not allowed to have contingent fees. Likewise, we're not allowed to have commissions either. So basically, you want to be very careful about that. If you are a partner in a CPA firm and you're drawing up the engagement contracts with a client, just be aware that these type of fee arrangements are prohibited. Another area of interest for CPAs is confidential information and how it's handled. Typically, a CPA is not allowed to disclose confidential client information unless they have specific consent of the clients. Now, there are a couple exceptions to this rule. The CPA, for instance, number one, this doesn't relieve the CPA of his or her professional obligation to comply with accounting principles. What that means is that the client can't say, oh, hey, this information's confidential and that's why we don't want to include it on the financial statements, if GAAP is requiring them to actually make that information public. So in that situation, the CPA is not required to keep the information confidential. Also, if there's any subpoenas or summons, the CPA kind of has to put confidentiality on the side to be able to comply with those. And sometimes the SEC maybe will have interest in a company. They'll ask the CPA to provide them with information. All right, that's kind of an exception to this confidentiality rule. And also the CPA, we're going to talk about this later in the course. There are different types of ways that the CPA gets reviewed. So other CPA firms will review the work of a given CPA firm over time. And the confidentiality agreement between a CPA and their client doesn't extend to this review. So during a review, the other CPA firms that review the work of maybe our CPA firm, all right, they're going to be able to have access to this confidential information, even though they don't work for the client themselves.